Hello and welcome to Shale bonus episode. Because of the Shale story was so little and so short, I decided let's extend it a little bit with the doll profile, which I never used to read. But well, I think that's what we'll do today. And yeah, let's see. She's a melee doll, attacker, pretty strong. In terms of law, I did not test her out. And yeah, name Shale, type AP, birthday March 8, the vacation, oil prospector, sword heavy industry and class warrior. The specialist AP doll was developed eternally by Swarrock Heavy Industry Energy Division. Its primary function included prospecting for, extracting and refining fossil fuels, covering every link in the fossil fuel industry. Like many specialized dolls developed by Swarrock Heavy Industry, their IP's design emphasize repairability and durability under hostile work conditions. In addition, multiple suits of internal module and external equipment were developed for it. Since the fossil fuel industry was still quite large in the 2050s, wow, it's kind of huge that they is still there. Their IP did not suffer the lack of demand which many industry critics had predicted, instead maintaining a stable sale volume. As one of their initial IPs, Shale was purchased and employed by a major oil company that was affiliated with Swarrock Heavy Industry. However, due to cutbacks in 2059, Shale was made redundant. She was recovered by Swarrock and was sent to Project NeuroCloud. Basically how we get her. And doll profiles. Ever since it replaced coal to become humanity's largest source of power in the 1950s, crude oil can be said to have reshaped the face of the earth. Not only did it change the way of living for the masses and financial organizations, it also had a far-reaching impact on the global power structure. Meanwhile, the scarcity of fossil fuels and humanity's carbon footprint were among the most hotly debatable topics of the early 21st century. That's what we are it. That said, while the development of clean forms of energy is progressing ever onwards, fossil fuels show no sign of being completely eliminated, not even in the face of a world war. The devastation wrought by World War III slower the development of clean energy source. Meanwhile, Swarrock Heavy Industries' collapsed energy generation technology was incredibly costly, technologically demanding, and still had not yet worked out its many shortcomings. As such, it was only deployed in certain well-developed white zones. For most places, oil remains their primary source of energy. However, during the war, many oil extraction and processing facilities were recognized as strategically important and target for strikes. The lack of manpower proven to be a thorny problem during reconstruction efforts. This was why the IP specialist doll was created. Due to a stark, blatant practicality, the IP would prove to be indispensable to the rebuilding of the chemical industry. Doll profile 2. The first batch of IPs were clear experimental units, and their internal layouts was far more complex than their successors. This batch has been produced before the model was officially announced on the market, offered by major oil companies affiliated with Swarrock Heavy Industries to test their capabilities. Shale was within this bench of IPs. After entering service, Shale and the other members of the first branch of IPs were deployed to various oil fields and underwent performance trials. During the long testing process, which lasted several months, many IPs showed signs of instability in adverse environments due to their complex body structure. Only Shale and several other units remained fundamentally intact, following which Swarhovi Industry would use their experimental data gathered to fine-tune their IP's design. So, do we get one of the IP's design later on too? Like the new one? Since oil wells were so important, IPs were all awakened and tested at their future workplaces. Shale was awakened in an oil field out in the desert. In this desolate land, Shale adapted to her task with surprising speed and began her career as an oil prospector. The petite Shale seemed utterly out of place amidst a sea of brutal-looking and imposing wellheads. But once she donned her heavy protective suit and stepped into the extraction zone, she performed every bit as ever as the hoariest veterans present. Her heavy suit completely obscures her face, leaving only the sound of her drill in her wake. By the time she finished work, her orange-red suit would often be dyed in sticky black. After shading her suit, Shale's biosynthetic skin would often be flushed red and moist from the heat inside, and her most pressing task after that would be to demand from her worksite and find the shower as fast as possible. Doll voice. Oh, that's a long one. Okay. I think we just listen to the voice and then read it after.
よいしょっとこれでよし。教授？もしかしてうちがこれで家具を壊さないか心配してます？すみません、気をつけます。あれ？このベッドちっとも重くない。うちの装備の方が断然重いですって。そうそう、この装備いろんな場所での探索とか石油資源の採掘のためにデザインされてるんですよ。うちと同じように高圧高温の劣悪な環境下でも稼働できるようになってて、さすがに映写には反映できなかったんでリコさんに頼んで組み立てる材料を揃えてもらったんです。価格？こんな感じでしたけど。お、教授、何ですかその表情。
I wish so much that we had actually voiced stories. Okay. Alright, this is it. Professor, you looked worried. Are you afraid I will end up breaking the other furniture if I hold it with one hand? Pardon me, I will be more careful. No, it's not heavy at all. It's just a bed. It's nothing compared to my drilling gear. My equipment was designed to drill for and gather information on oil deposits in varied environments. Just like me, they are made strong enough to work in high pressure, high heat and other such adverse environments. You want to know how I managed to reproduce them on the cloud? I specifically commissioned Miss Rico to get the appropriate materials. How much did it cost? Well, it was about this much. Professor, why are you making that face like that? Okay, the cats.
ダブルとユウは現実で飼ってた猫で、昔は同僚のペットだったんです。よく採掘場の中をフラフラしてたんですよ。 しかもその辺の作業員よりも賢くて絶対に休憩エリアから離れようとしないんです。最初はうちに染みついた原油の匂いを嫌がってたんですけど、3ヶ月間心を込めてお世話してたらすっかり懐いちゃって、人間の同僚たちが去り際にうちに託していきました。誰もいない採掘場じゃこの子たちが唯一の仲間だったんです。夜なんて宿舎に戻ると2匹ともおかえりってしてくれるんですよ。
Yeah, that's so sweet. Big Wee and Little Wee are my cats from reality. They were originally raised by one of my colleagues and ended up running around the oil field. However, they are more safety conscious than some of the workers and they rarely ever left the rest area. At first, they seemed quite repulsed by the smell of crude oil on me, but after I spent 3 months learning how cats behave, they ended up plastering themselves all over me. That human colleague of mine left my workplace some time later and entrusted them to me. They are my only friends in an otherwise deserted oil field. Whenever I come back to the dorms after work each night, they are always waiting for me at the door. Doll Profile 3. For most people, working in a desert oil field ought to be very challenging and dangerous. However, the nature of the company that employed Shale mean that while the work was very tough, the workers enjoyed very generous benefit. They had soft beds, delicious food, generous compensation, and even the toilets were lavishly designed. I think that's really good, I don't know. However, one extremely strict rule stood in contrast to the otherwise comfortable environment. Employers could not leave the area where the oil field was without permission. This, in turn, led to Shale, who had been awakened within the oil field, to never have the chance to experience the outside world. It's so mean. Trapped in the middle of the desert, as she was, the only way Shale could make contact with the world beyond was through the literature left behind by the human workers. The first book Shale read was an astrology of short stories called Adventures of Nora. It was from that little book that Shale learned about what lay beyond the desert. From then on, Shale could be seen reading in the rest area whenever she had any free time. In addition, Shale places orders for many books, which includes works from famous authors, short stories, and even some strange magazines. Whatever the book, Shale would throw herself into reading it. Doyle Voice 3.
エネルギー出力検査完了。防火装置 OK。防爆設備 OK。これより帯電防止フィルムの交換を。誰？教授？ちょっと待ってください。今開けます。教授、どうしたんですか急に。ああ、どうぞどうぞお入りください。これが今の作業場ですね。さっきは定期点検をしてて、いつもの習慣なんです。クラウドだろうと現実だろうと、採掘場で火花や静電気がちょっとでも起きればとんでもない大災害を招きかねませんから、素体や設備に特殊な処理をしっかり施してちゃんと安全を守らないと。そうだ、教授、背中に帯電防止フィルム貼ってもらえます？自分じゃ届かなくって。できない？なんでですか？漫画でよくある光景じゃないですか。
Sounds interesting. Okay, what's it about? Motive output checked complete. Fire safety device checked. Processing to reapply anti-shock membrane. Is someone knocking at the door? Professor, is that you? A moment please. I will get the door. What are you doing here, Professor? You need to speak to me? Oh, come on then, I have a look. This is our current work environment. You want to know what I was doing just now? It was a routine inspection. Just one of my habits, whatever on the cloud or in the real world. Even the smallest spark or discharge of static electricity could cause a huge disaster as a drill site. Therefore, both me and my gear need to be specially prepared to ensure everything goes smoothly. Yes, Professor, could you help stick the anti-shock membranes on my back? Can't quite reach it. Huh? It's not appropriate? But doesn't this sort of things happen in the manga all the time? Yeah, though she has also a couple of very sassy books too. That's what I was referring. Let's start. Okay, doll profile 4. Did not expect being it so long. When Shale first started working with her company, it was doing well and undergoing a period of rapid expansions. Its ads were a common sign of TV, and it sponsored many sport organizations. One of these organizations was a biking team that had won 4 consecutive championships. NWSBK, which is very likely Bonneville, giving them great advertising power. However, profit in the energy industry were often subject to market fluctuations. The Great Earthquake of 2058 and a series of scandals led by the company choosing to downside. By the start of 2059, their share price has fallen by 35%. In the end, they had no choice but to merge with their close partner Spheric Heavy Industry, becoming a subsidiary company. After the company was purchased, Shale became part of Spheric Heavy Industry engineer divisions. The oil field where she was stationed began cutting back on its production due to a decision from the company's leader, resulting in many employees being transferred away or terminated. In the end, Shale, the doll, was the only one left in the desert. During this time, she took over the assets that her colleagues had left behind, including their cats that they had raised. At one point, Shale had over 10 cats around her, and those cats helped Shale through her loneliness part of her life. After she left the oil field, most of them found homes with new owners, with the exception of Big B and Little B, whom she took in and could always be found by her side. Doll Voice 4.
製造局のみんなとお仕事するのってすごく楽しいし、すごく幸せだな。また大げさなこと言っちゃった。でも教授は分かってくれますよね。石油ってすっごく大事な資源で、しかも前よりも貴重になってますし、それを守るためにうちは生み出されたんです。うち起動してからずーっと採掘場で働いてきました。ニューラルクラウド計画に参加するまで作業場を離れることさえ許されなくて、こうやっていろんな仲間と一緒に仕事をするのって初めてで、誤解しないでくださいね。採掘場での生活が嫌だったわけじゃないんです。ご飯は美味しいし、宿舎も豪華だし、お金もたくさんもらえますし、外との連絡が不便なこと以外は結構快適だったんですよ。まあ強いて言えばち ちょっとだけ寂しかったですけど。
Every time I listen to voice line, I'll be like, man, this game just could be voiced. Why not? Okay. Working with everyone else in the engineer bureau is tiring but fun. Oh dear, I made a strange face again. As you know, oil has always been a vital resource, and crude oil and natural gas are even rarer than before. In order to protect those natural resources, I have been working constantly at drill sites even since I was activated. I wasn't allowed to set foot outside a drill site until I joined Project Neural Cloud. So this is my first time working with so many coworkers. Don't get the wrong idea, Professor. Life on a drill site isn't that bad. The food is good, the accommodations are great, and I get a healthy paycheck too. Apart from the fact that it's hard to contact the outside world, there are not many things that bother me there. Well, it does get a little lonely at times. Doll Profile 5. Between the signing of her contract and her official induction into Project Neural Cloud, Shale found herself with a lot of free time. She had a never-ending pile of books to read, and both Big V and Little V keep her company. Though she had left the oil field, Shale has joined Project Neural Cloud, which means she still did not have the chance to travel the outside world. However, this did not make her anxious. Instead, she completed all the tasks assigned to her with a curious heart and an earnest attitude. Despite being trapped in Magracy, Shale remained in good spirit. Magracy might have been a strange place that was different from the real world, but to her, it contained many new possibilities, a notion which would only be reinforced after visiting the oasis. Isn't it great to live with love and hope in your heart, like the star of a romantic novel? No matter whatever she ends up, staying in Magracy or returning to the world once again, someday in the future, Shale is ready to face it. Yeah. How long will this game be? Oh, I don't think it will be wrong. Also, I will speak about it later. But let's read the first Doll Voice 5.
教授、これ今回の本の申請リストです。それとリコさんへのディットコインも。これ全部アンジェラさんたちにおすすめしてもらったんですよ。うちが読みたかった本も少し混ざってますけど。なんで紙の本が欲しいのかって？習慣かな。それか紙が好きなのかも。前にも言ったじゃないですか。うち外の世界に触れる機会が少なかったって。メンタルに記録されてるのも石油科学の知識ばっかり。それ以外は全然。通信やネットワークは不便だし、人間の同僚たちが残していった本を読むしかなかったんですよね。紙のページをめくると外の世界に触れたみたいな不思議な感覚になるんです。クラウドでの生活は本当に楽しいです。見たこともないものがいっぱいで、そうしたら逆に本の中で語られる世界にもっともっと興味が湧いてきちゃって。教授、現実に戻ったらうちにいろんな世界を見せてくれますか？
Professor, this is the list of books I would like to order and recoup payments in digit coins. Angel recommended those books to me, and naturally these are some I have always wanted to read. You want to know why I'm always reading physical books? I wonder if I should call it a habit or a hobby. Like I said last time, I had a hard time experiencing the outside world at my precious workplace. Most of the data in my neural cloud pertains to petrochemical process with hardly anything else. Since the network connection at my drill site wasn't good, the books with my humid colleagues left behind were my main source of literature. Flipping pages is a marvelous feeling, as though I could touch the outside world with my fingers. Life in the cloud is very fun, Professor. There are many things here which I haven't seen before. They made me even more curious about the world my book describes. If we ever return to the real world, would you mind taking me exploring, Professor? And... oh no. Oh, hello. So... it's way longer than I expected about the doll story. I think it's actually shorter, but maybe because we didn't have the bonus stage from the event. Looks like this one is much bigger. So that's it for the bonus page. I hope we will see her more in her character story. Her character in the main story. So yeah, thank you for watching and listening. I wish you a good day, night, afternoon, and see you in more Neuro Cloud.